Welcome back to Your Average Witch, where every Tuesday we talk about witch life, witch stories, and sometimes a little witchcraft. Your Average Witch is brought to you by Clever Kim's Curios. In this episode, I talked to Mimi Love. She's actually a friend of mine from decades back when we met on LiveJournal a million years ago. Mimi talks to us about getting stolen as a newborn, tells the story of how we shared a dog, and explains that she does it all for love. Now let's get to the stories. Hi, Mimi. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm pretty wonderful.
Good. Can you please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my name's Mimi Love, and well, I'm a witch, and I am. Well, I've been your friend for a really long time, and I think that it's going to surprise you to find out who I am in context of these questions you're going to ask me today.
Probably.
Um, I've been a witch for a really long time, and I try to think about myself in the context of the world as someone who is here to love without expecting love in return. And that is how I have been living my life for probably about the past 15 or 20 years.
I don't know that I approve of that.
Well, it's not for everybody.
You need to expect some back. Okay, anyway, Mimi and I have known each other for about 20 years, which I
Yeah,
thought
we
about
have.
earlier today. That's freaking insane.
And we have never met in person,
Nope.
but we have
Although,
shared a pet.
yes. When I lived in Colorado, and got a divorce, I had to find another home for one of my dogs. And so I had one of my friends was traveling to where Mimi lives, and so she carried the dog over there on the airplane with her.
I loved having Rachel as a part of my life. My husband and I had Rachel for many, many years, and we loved having her. She was a delight. And what was funny was it was just this running joke that we had the first time I saw Rachel in your live journal. So that's how long this has been. I said, Kim, what are you doing with my dog? That's my dog. Give me my dog. And I loved Rachel from the moment I saw her. From the moment I saw her when she had her own YouTube channel, I knew that was my dog.
I forget about that YouTube channel.
I never forget about that YouTube channel because I go back and watch the videos whenever I miss her. I go back and watch those videos whenever I miss her. I watch those videos. And one of my favorite things is when she gave a shout out to Lisa Simpson. And, and, I love her. I loved Rachel so much, and I still love her. And oh gosh, I didn't think I was going to start off this podcast crying, but I loved her. And so I've never met you, Kim, in person, but I have loved
But
your
you
dog
met
and
the
loved
canine
raising your
equivalent
dog.
of me.
I absolutely have. I've met your canine form.
Yep,
And
it's that lunatic ass, crazy, hungry bitch.
Yes. I told my husband, I said, we're getting a dog, and the dog is going to be on Paxil. The dog is going to be on Paxil.
I forgot about that.
And we're going to have to keep up a prescription. We have to keep up this prescription. And it was so funny that when the dog came to our house, when Rachel came to our house, the first thing she did was eat a whole lot of Slim Jims in the back of the car. And the second thing she did was come home, get on the furniture. And about a week after we had her, she didn't need another Paxil. We just let her do whatever she wanted to do.
Well,
we let her do whatever she wanted to do. We didn't worry about it. And, her neurotic behavior was fine with us. We didn't care. We just let her do whatever she wanted to do. And I always thought, well, That's how Kim would be if she was with me. She wouldn't need any medication. She would just be able to do whatever she wanted to do. And she wouldn't need any medicine. She'd just be fine because I would accept everything about her. I just love her the way she
Aw,
is.
that is gonna
So
make me have a heart that hurts.
I just accept you the way you are. I just let you be whatever you need to be. And so I think the way that I loved Rachel is the way that I love you too.
Ow, my heart!
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta actually do this interview.
We're doing it.
So what does it mean to you when you call yourself a witch?
Oh, okay. Well, when I call myself a witch, I think it means that I have the innate ability to move through the world and to move the world around me in ways that benefit me and those I love. And I think that it means that there's nothing that is beyond me really to do. And honestly, I think it's just an amazing thing. I don't think that the world has to be difficult. I don't think that the world has to be hard for me, except for in the lessons that I'm here to learn. Um, I think that it is as difficult as it needs to be for what I'm here to learn, for what my spirit is here to process through. And my acceptance of that and how I choose to move through it is part of what makes me a witch. Um, I have the ability to move the world also for others. And, I do that for my husband, I do that for my friends, I do that for strangers. I can see in people what their light is. And I think being able to change things for people is a good thing. Um, I watched my grandmother in that way as well. She worked roots, and she was what they call in the South a root woman. And she commodified her witchcraft as a way to make ends meet a lot of times. She sold her services, which is pretty common in the South. You barter and trade, you know. And I personally haven't done that, but sometimes you make up a little sachet for someone, say sleep with this under your pillow, and it's going to help you or whatever. And I move through the world that way. And I feel like I've always been a witch. I saw my grandmother do it. I saw my aunts do it. And it's just something that's been in the family. It's just the way that I move in the world. And I think it's a beautiful way to move in the world.
Do you have any particular stories of stuff like that from childhood?
Well, I can remember pretty early on, going out into the woods with my grandmother and wildcrafting, just being out in the woods, and she'll say, "Don't eat this one, you can pick that one." And, this one has magic in it. And just knowing these things early on. And then, I think there's a time, probably for everybody, when you're a child, especially for magical children who have magical families and magical roots, where you're open and receiving that kind of thing. And then maybe in your teens when you're just close to it, you know. And then maybe when your grandmother's getting older, at least for me, when my grandmother was getting older, I just really wanted to sit down with her and write all those things down. And I sat down with her one time and I was like, "Grandmama, I just really want you to tell me all that stuff that you told me when I was a child. I just really want to remember it. I really want to know it." And she said, "You do know it. You do know it. You just need to go back out into the woods. You need to figure it out. You do know it. I told you when you were a little girl. You do know it." And I was so upset with her because she wouldn't go over it with me again. And I thought she was being selfish, but she wasn't. She had given all of that to me when I was a child, and it was there. It was in me. And I thought about it later on when I'd go on walks, and I would look down and I would see those flowers, I would see those herbs, and I was like, you know what, she was right. It is in me. I do know it. I do know it. And it wasn't until after I think it was after she died when I realized how much I did still know. It just she wouldn't go over it with me again because I wasn't ready. And it took me a long time not to resent her for not telling me those stories again, but she knew I wasn't ready to hear them again. And it just I wish now I had been kinder about it with her, but you always have those stories where you wish you'd been kinder to your elders when you thought you knew everything and all that. But
Hmm.
it just she told me that I did know it, and I did. When I look back at it now, I do know what everything is that she taught me. When I go walking in the woods, my grandmother's always with me. When I'm picking herbs in the woods, I know not to pick too much and what to replant and what seeds to gather and what not to gather and what to grind and what to crush. I know everything about what she taught me. And I'm always thankful for it. And that is the I think what my grandmother taught me is the background of my practice. And how she loved and how she walked in the world is the background of my practice. And she was not even related to me. She was just a woman who stole me at a store one time and told my mother where to come get me. And it was just, it was a special relationship I had with that old woman, which is a weird story in and of itself.
It sounds.
Yeah.
I didn't. That you know the face I made.
She stole me from a store. She stole me from a store when I was a baby. Yeah, she sure did. Um, you can do things like that in the South and get away with it. It's a little bit different now. I don't think you could, but back then you could when I was a baby. Are you waiting on me to tell you? Yes, you are.
I'm thinking about if you're gonna tell it, yeah.
When I was a baby, my mother was a young mother, and my mother told me this story, and my grandmother too. When my mother was a young mother, she was feeding me and doing everything by the book that the doctor gave her. Uh, my mother was desperate to have a baby. She had been desperate to have a baby, and she'd had several miscarriages, and I was her only live birth, and she was desperate to do everything right with me. Well, I was about 6 months old, maybe 6.5 months old, she told me, and I was just horribly screaming in a store. I was screaming. And my mother told me that this woman heard me screaming. And it was this old woman. She came up, she was dragging one leg, and she had one eye half closed. And she came up and she said, "Let me see that baby." And my mother didn't know what to do, and she said she gave she gave me to the old woman. Well, the woman took me basically, and she said, and she touched my belly, and she as soon as she gave me to the woman, my mama said that I stopped crying, and she said, "I'm gonna take this baby home with me. This is where I live at. I'm gonna take this baby home with me. Don't you start. I know who you are. I know who you are. You Joe and Ed's daughter. You Joe and Ed's daughter. I know who you are. You ask your mama about me. I'm gonna take this baby with me. You come and get her in 2 days. Don't you come to my house before 2 days. I know who you are. You ask your mama about me." And she left the store. And my mama cried, but she tried to go after the woman. She cried, and then she went home. And my mom said she went straight to her mama's house, and she told her mama, she described the woman to her and everything. And her mom said, "Oh, that's Miss Reba. She's fine. Don't worry about it. Your baby gonna be all right. Don't go down there before she told you to, though. Don't go before 2 days, but your baby be fine. Don't worry about it." So everybody had to console my mother and keep her from going down to Miss Reba's house for 2 days. And then the second day, she was down there bright and early. My mom said I was fine. I wasn't crying. I was laughing. I was fed. I was wrapped in new blankets. My clothes were clean. I had on a brand new dress. Everything was fine. My hair was just, curly. Everything was fine. And Miss Reba told her that I was constipated. because she was giving me the poison milk from the doctor. And that, I didn't need that poison milk from the doctor. I needed goat's milk, and I needed this, and I needed that, and I needed different things. And I was constipated, and that was all that was wrong with me. And from that day, that was my grandmama, my other grandmama, and she was also my babysitter, and that's where my mother left me when she went to work. And so that's how that woman became my babysitter and my grandmother. For all intents and purposes, I call that woman my grandma and her husband my papa. And I didn't know that I wasn't related to them. Well, I was distantly related to them because it's the South, but I didn't know I wasn't related to them. They was cousins. I didn't know I wasn't related to them until I was probably, I didn't know they weren't my grandparents until I was probably 10 or 12 years old. I thought I had 3 sets of grandparents for some reason. And I just grew up like that. But she stole me from the store and took me home with her.
Can you imagine today? Some woman walks up to me and says, "Give me that baby. You can't come see her for 2 days. You know where I live. Ask your mom." Bitch.
That's how they told me it happened. I have no reason not to believe it because that is the story that everybody tells about how I ended up at that house. And I believe it because that is the story everybody tells, and nobody has any deviation from the story. And I mean, that's the way they tell it. They even, down to the store, it happened in the Five and Dime. And even the people at the store will say, "Oh, you're the little girl they stole that Miss Reaper stole that one time. You sure have grown."
Well, let's move into the future. I guess it's the present. Do you have daily practices?
I do.
Or consistent ones? Consistent,
Well,
if not daily.
Okay, well, see, now this is where it got difficult because I was reading your questions. I live in my practice, so I don't think I do. I live in my practice. I don't separate it from my daily life. So if I'm making a cup of tea, then that cup of tea, I believe, is it's a ritual for me to make my morning cup of tea. I get up, I'm blessing that tea, I'm blessing the cup, I'm blessing the water. I'm having a moment with that spoon. I'm trying to move in that practice and make it part of my day. I'm trying to be in that energy all day because I don't want to be outside of it. Because I feel like if I'm living my practice all the time, I'm not letting any other energy in. I want to, it's such a beautiful energy to be in. And the energy I'm speaking of is love. I try to be in the presence of love as much as possible. It's just where I reside now, in this presence of love, of giving love, of being love, of having love around me. And when I say that I want to give love to the world and not expect it in return, it's just that I don't want love to be a tit for tat type of thing for me. Not everybody has it to give. Not everybody can afford it. I like to think that I can. And if people have love to spare, then I'm happy to receive it, but I don't expect it. And so I just like to live in this energy. So my witchcraft comes from a place of that, of just wanting to plant love in the world, be love in the world, give love back to the world. And so when I make my morning cup of tea, I'm thinking about that energy of putting it into the world. How much I want to hope that the people who made the tea have love. How much I hope that the people at the water factory have love. That the people at the spoon factory have love. I'm trying to push that love out of me and into wherever I can push it. And it's just, I know it sounds crazy. I've been told it sounds crazy, but it's just how I'm living right now. And it's been working for me because the return has been that my husband and I in our lives, we have not been in a place of lack in as long as I can remember. We have been in abundance for as long as I can remember. And the last time we were struggling is when I was guarding myself so selfishly, guarding my practice so selfishly, keeping secrets, keeping everything inside me. But ever since I have blossomed into this phase of just loving and not caring if I receive anything, gosh, it's been so nice.
It actually doesn't sound crazy. After hearing the explanation, initially when you first said it, it did sound crazy. But hearing that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you need my approval. You don't, but you have it now.
I don't know. My practice is so hard to explain to anybody, and it's just I walk in the world not minding my own business. I've lost the ability to do that. It it
Did you say
just
not minding your own business?
not minding my own business.
Mm.
Not minding my own business. I don't know how to do it anymore. When I see somebody who looks like they need a boost, I give it. I if you look like you need a boost, I'll give it to you. If you look like you need someone to tell you that you look great today, I'll tell you. If you look like you need somebody to tell you that you are a good person, I'll tell you. If you need that last $3 on your grocery bill, I'll give it to you. If whatever you need, because holding on to it ain't doing anything for me.
That's
I'm
nice.
out here. I'm out here in the world. I believe that we are here to help each other. And I used to be a person who was just so snide and so sarcastic and just so selfish. I was miserable. I really was. I didn't realize that I was miserable. I thought I was happy, but I was not. I was laughing all the time, but I wasn't happy. And now I find that my practice makes me happy and that giving love to the world makes me happy. And part of my witchcraft is to have an overflow of abundance so I can help others. It's what I ask for every year. I ask for more than I need so that I can give it as fruitfully as possible. And that's what I ask for every year. I ask for more than I need so that I can give it as fruitfully as possible. And that's what I do. And so every day that I can do that, I feel like I'm succeeding in my practice.
What would you say is the biggest motivator for you?
Other people, helping other people, seeing love blossom in other people, seeing joy in other people, and seeing cynicism fall away in other people. You know, the other day I was at the store and there was this young woman. She was just standing there. She was trying to buy groceries. It was just I mean, she was just a woman. She was just like any of us. She could have been anybody. And she was standing there and the clerk was getting frustrated with her and she was counting out her change and she was trying and she's like, I just want to make nachos for my son. I just want to make nachos for my son. He's in the car. I just want to make nachos for. And this guy who was he was just sort of sitting there telling her she didn't have enough money. And the people behind me were shifting from one foot to the other, and I was like, what are we talking about here? Like $5. And so I don't usually carry cash, but I checked my wallet. I had $5. So I just put it on the counter. I said, there you go. Enjoy your dinner. Have nachos with your son. And she turned around and looked at me like I was crazy. She said, are you sure? I was like, yeah, go have fun. Go eat nachos. Have fun. And people behind me were like, why would you do that? And I'm like, because she's trying to have nachos with her son. And and it, to me, it was just the obvious thing to do. I was like, why aren't we all pulling $1 out to help this woman have nachos with her son? Why aren't we just standing here? It's just, why aren't we helping her? And the person at the register was like, are you sure you want to do that? And I'm like, yes, I'm absolutely sure I want to do that. And, why is it a question? This money is going to come back to me. It's just money. It's going to come back to me. It's a tool that we use to get through the world. It's going to come back. I'm not worried about it. And I feel like this is what my practice is for. This is what my witchcraft is for. I'm going to come home. I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to ask for abundance in other areas of my life. I'm going to get this money back. I'm not worried about it. Is it a little bit of my light bill? Maybe. Am I worried that my lights are going to get shut off? Absolutely not. Because I believe in my practice. That's how it works for me.
What is your biggest struggle with your practice?
Wondering if I'm doing enough. Oftentimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. Oftentimes I wonder if my practice is real, because I'm not out here counting circles and casting circles and, doing all these things that I see other witches do. I often wonder if I'm not out here figuring out which herbs to do what with. Everything for me is very intuitive, and I'm doing what my grandmama taught me, and I'm doing it from a different place. And I often feel like, but then again, I'm not of, a Celtic tradition. I'm not of a Wiccan tradition. I'm of a folk magic tradition. I'm of a more African folk magic tradition, even not even that. It's just sort of this cobbled together stuff that was passed down. It may even be just from my family. I don't even know. I'm doing what I was taught.
You're
So,
not in the Appalachians, right?
no. Well, you know what?
But were your people?
Yeah, some of them were. I guess it depends. I mean, they could have been sold down through there or purchased down through there or, could have bought slaves down through there because I come from both sides because I come from the Jean de Coverlib. Some of my family were black people who were free. Some of my family was black people who were slaves. Uh, and, some of my family was white. So it's a mixed bag. And, I haven't done a lot of genealogy studies on my family. I know a lot of my recent family has, but wasn't really interested to me. And then again, there's a lot of family members who aren't really even related. It's just family that you pick up along the way. People who steal you in stores. And
You know how that goes.
yeah, your everyday, benevolent kidnappers. And and so you just never really know how that's going to go, and, especially in my family. And then, like, I have a lot of family members that I've recently found out are not related to me in any way at all. And then also there's that old trick of when you're trying to date growing up, they'll say that's your cousin, so you can't date anybody. But then you find out later they were never your cousin. So it's, you know, you never know. But the magical traditions in our family are vast. Oh, Lord.
Gesundheit.
Introducing my husband. I swear, if he was a superhero, his name would be Sonic Sneeze. If I forgot what you were saying, his sneeze just flew
Me too.
everything out of my head. Anyway,
family. Who isn't family?
Yeah, but oh Lord. Anyway, what were we
There it
talking
went.
about? We've lost the thread entirely, as we knew would happen.
Yep.
Anyway, what I was saying was, I think my practice sometimes one of the problems I have is that I just don't know if my practice is real enough, because it's not really rooted in anything that you can find in a book. It's not really rooted in anything that it doesn't look like anything that I know. And I've tried so many times to read a Silver Raven Wolf book and try to do that stuff, but it doesn't resonate with me. Light a candle and widdershins and whatnot. That's not for me. That's not for me. It's not for me. It's just not me. I think it's not for me because it's too structured. It's asking too much of a chaotic soul like myself. It's wanting me to be in a box. And, I'm much more like your dog, Rachel. You can't put me in a little box. Well, she's my dog too. But she's just, she was always mine. She was meant for me. You were just bringing her to me.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm just a little too chaotic for that. And I got to be too many places. I got to be able to do too many things. I got to take from too many places. And I always felt bad that I couldn't look at those books and read those traditions and make them fit me. And I think it had something to do with the way I was brought up and just the way I was, just my own practice just doesn't fit that mold. And I always felt badly about it, especially when trying to work with other witches. It just didn't fit. You won't find a lot of pentagrams in my house. You won't find a lot of anything very, what I would say is modern traditional. I'm not even sure I would call myself a neo-pagan or even a pagan at all in that way. This practice that I have, it's, I don't have any ritual tools that I could point to and say, I keep this special for my craft. The knife that I'm using is the knife that is sacred. The knife that, my altar is wherever I'm standing, and I put things that I'm working with at the time. I am the sacred thing. The sacred thing is me. So whatever I touch, whatever I work with, whatever it is, becomes sacred when I use it. When I stop using it, it isn't anymore. I can just wash it and put it back in the drawer. And that's how I've always worked, and that's how my grandmother worked. It just, and maybe that's because they were poor and they couldn't afford to have something that was sacred and used for only one thing. I don't know, but that's how she worked, and that's how I work. I hadn't really thought about it until you asked the question. Honestly, I'm getting ahead of you now. I'm like way ahead on your list talking about ritual tools. podcast is off the rails. Okay.
What brings the most joy in your practice?
Seeing joy and delight in other people when they don't even know that they have become part of it. Working with other people and just, I think my practice is inside me more than it's exterior. What I mean by that is, I'm always working on myself. And then the work that I do on myself as a witch is then it's reflected in the way that I get to walk in the world. So if I were not doing this work inside myself, working on myself, doing this witchcraft on myself, crafting myself into a better witch, then the way I walk in the world would not change. And the way I walk in the world has changed so much. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still a petty bitch. Oh my God, I'm still so petty. At least I can be. But I'm working on it. I'm still working on it. But I am so much better than I used to be. I still get the amount of love I have to give in the world is so much better. I walk into the world now. I smile so much. I'm so happy. And the amount of joy I have for my fellow human beings is just it's kind of amazing. And I think that the the best thing for me, the way that the best thing for me is how much more I want to do in the world, how many spaces I want to get into, how much more I want to give, how much I want to volunteer. My body holds me back more than anything, but how much I want to volunteer, how much I want to teach, how much I want to live in the world. I no longer feel like I want to be a hermitess just, toiling away in my little cave. I want to be out with people. And, that's a huge change for me. Um, and it's not in big ways. It's always, for me, it's in small individual ways for a lot of it. And um, I just I don't know. I have a lot to do and I don't have a lot of time. And that's something that's so evident to me. And the more my time gets shortened here, the more my practice becomes a bigger part because I just feel like I need to change more so I can do more.
What's something you did early in your practice that you no longer do, and why don't you do it anymore?
Try hard. Oh God, I used to try so hard. I used to try to fit. I used to try to I used to try to fit. I used to try to fit in. I used to try to make sure people knew what I was doing. I used to wear the witchy clothes. I used to try to show off, that, make sure people knew I was a witch. I used to try to, uh, oh, I used to try. I used to try so hard. Um, and now I don't try. I just am. I'm content with being and not showing, uh, which that took a long time because to me, the showing is unnecessary. The being is the thing. Uh,
That's a good one.
yeah, uh, you know, uh, I don't, I don't need to, I don't need people to know. I just need to be. And early on, it was so important. And I think it was so important for me to try and to let people see it because I wasn't sure, if they would know. And it's not important for other people to know. I mean, for me now, the way I move in the world, people don't know if it's witchcraft or or if I'm a Christian or if I'm a witch or if I'm a, Lutheran or if I'm a Hare Krishna, they don't know. They have no idea. Um all they know is that there is kindness pouring out of me, and that is what I want them to know. That's what's important to me, is that they feel kindness, they feel joy, they feel love coming out of me. And that's the important part, for me. Now, for some people, they need people to know that they're a witch. They need people to know that this is coming from witchcraft. For me, that is less important to me than it used to be, because the work is for me. The results are for the world. And if the results are changing the world, I'm not. Where they come from doesn't matter for me. So that's something that I do differently.
That reminds me of the story you told me.
I have no idea what this is going to be because I've told you so many.
I know. It's not even about you. It's about your husband.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
And the
God.
parkour kid in the Dairy Queen drive-thru.
Oh, my God. I knew it was going to be Parkour Kid.
Oh, good job, buddy.
Good job, buddy. You're doing it. You're doing great.
That just makes
Parkour
me happy.
Kid. I love that. I love how encouraging he was. In the time it took us to get a blizzard, my husband is encouraging this kid at the Parkour Kid. Oh my God. I haven't seen him in a while, but he was steadily improving. He was
Good for
steadily
him.
improving. My husband has the energy of a third grade T-ball coach when it comes to other people's. He absolutely has the energy of a third grade T-ball coach. I mean, he's going to keep setting up that T-ball, and he's going to keep on helping, encouraging. Good job, buddy. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're getting better. You're going to get it next time. I know you are. You got it. You got it. You got it, boy. You got it, kid. You're doing it. Where's your mom? You're doing a great job. Is your mom inside the church? Oh my God. For people who don't know, and that's everybody, our Dairy Queen sits in front of a roller rink that used to be a church. Well, a church that used to be a roller rink. And there was this kid who was doing parkour on top of a large, like, power box type thing. And my husband, while we were getting our Dairy Queen treats, would be the most encouraging person you have ever heard to this kid who was trying to do parkour right behind the Dairy Queen. You got it, kid. Oh, did you fall? You fell down? You got it. Get up. You're going to be all right. Dust it off. It's good. Did you get hurt? You need to go inside? You're all right. You got it. Go ahead. Jump one more time. I bet you can get higher this time. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. But my husband was very encouraging. Every single time. He has the energy of a grade 3 T-ball coach when it comes to encouraging children to do whatever they want. And that is something that Kim and I have laughed about several times, but it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So, yeah.
Just calling somebody buddy in real life and not being facetious about it is so interesting to me.
He means it.
That's
Buddy,
so cool.
Buddy and Guy. Buddy and Guy. You got it, Guy. Come on, Guy. Buddy. And friend.
Lord.
Buddy and friend. So, yeah. Oh my God. I think the universe has made it so that we don't live next to each other because we get nothing done.
Uh-uh.
Ah,
'Cause there's always a tangent, and I'm a
there's always,
tangential motherfucker.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
worse if I know somebody.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well,
Okay, let's do an
mm,
interview. What's your favorite tool in your practice and why? How do you use the tool? It doesn't have to be a physical object.
um, meditation. Meditation. I use meditation as a tool. I find that meditation is probably my favorite thing to use. I I like to center myself at least once a day and try to calm my own energies. And what I do is, it's nothing fancy. It's just trying to breathe and center myself and not think of anything, not worry about
That's
anything.
all. Well,
It's harder than you think.
I
It's
know, that's what I'm saying. You're like, "Oh, it's just this little thing where I completely clear my mind and I concentrate on my breathing for 5 minutes." Oh, is it? That's all?
well, yeah, well, 5 to 15 minutes of just
Lord.
concentrating on just trying to push my, and it is difficult. If I have a thought, I try to bat it away. I just try to, just try and keep it out of my mind, and just I don't think about things because you know it's I have a lot of things that are pressing on me. My time is shorter than I would like, and I I feel like, every time I go to the doctor, they give me a little bit more, they give me a little bit more bad news, and it bothers me. And I have a lot of things I want to get done. And I try to keep those things out of my mind because the time gets shorter, but the work doesn't. And by the work, I mean what I'm here to do. And that is to love as many people as possible and to give as much love to the world as possible without expecting it in return. That's harder than you would think. It does get stressful. And I told one of my friends, one of my lovely best friends, he knows who he is and I love him. I love him so much. And that I I feel like I am here to love everybody, no matter what. No matter what they've done, no matter who they are. I love everybody. And that's harder than you think. And I don't make judgments on who my heart is here to love. And loving the people who other people don't deserve it, don't think deserve it is one of the things that I have put on myself. So I meditate on that a lot. Why do I put that on myself? Why do I put it on myself to push love into the world for people who are seemingly unlovable? I don't know, because somebody has to. Somebody's got to love them. Somebody's got to love the people that y'all want. Maybe that's what's wrong with them. So I meditate on that too. And it's a difficulty. But meditation, meditation is a tool that I use a lot. Meditation on love, meditation on the world, meditation on nothing. But yeah, that's my favorite tool.
Do you ever work with other witches?
Not anymore. I used to. My husband and I were laughing about this question the other night. I used to work with other witches, but I don't anymore. I would. I'm not against it. It's not something that I'm against. It's just something that I don't really think about too much. Number one, I'm not around a whole lot of witches. I go to festivals and things like that, and I like being around other witches, but to work with them, we just don't seem to jive. Um, Now, I'm never one to say that witchcraft isn't political,
What?
but I believe that witchcraft can be political, and I think it should be to some degree, but I don't think that it always has to be every single time you meet. And that is one of the
I agree
things
with
that
that.
I have a problem with, is that every time, I have met up with witches, it has gone from being a time when witches can just convene and relax to everybody having to prove their devotion to a cause. And sometimes I just don't have the energy for that. I mean, I think we all want to make the world a better place. And I think we do all know what, to the most part, do know what the issues are. But sometimes we just want to have a drum circle, or sometimes we just want to, call down the moon, or sometimes we just want to be here in this moment and do this ritual that we all came to do. And, not bring the Supreme Court into it at this very moment. Maybe we can have a separate time for that. And I have found that, a lot of witches, at least around here, maybe it's because it's a college town, are not capable of that. And so I have, just, you know, decided not to do that. Also, I have found that for me, at least, being a Black woman, um, usually the witchcraft circles I have found are primarily white spaces. And then I end up having to be the voice of diversity for them. And I don't want to do that.
Uh-uh.
I don't want
Why
to
do you
talk
gotta
about
take
all the
that
Black.
job on?
I'm not being, yeah, honestly, if I'm going to do that, then make me your guest speaker and pay me. I don't want to do that. I just really don't. It's not what I'm here for. And so I just don't want to do it. I'm not even qualified to do it. Honestly, I'm not. Yeah, I've seen every season of Friends. I'm not qualified. I'm not.
Why?
I'm not qualified. I'm not. I'm really not.
Have you really?
Yes, I have, and all of the Seinfelds. I'm not
I
qualified
super
for
have
that.
not.
And I haven't seen every season of Living Single. So I'm really not qualified.
Like,
So
that's
I
the one
mean,
you choose.
I'm not qualified.
Oh, Lord.
It's just I'm just kidding people. These are jokes. That's a joke. Lord of mercy. But I'm not qualified. What I mean to say is I did not grow up deeply immersed in even my own Blackness. My mother was not that kind of mother. Um, she put me around as many white people as possible growing up because she was, oh Lord, how can I put this without getting run out of the county? Um, okay. I'll just say, let me put it this way. I'm, I did not grow up around a lot of other Black people when I was a kid. When I was in school, when I first started school, um, I was token. I was the token at my school. I was one of two token Black kids at my school in my kindergarten class when I first came here. And my mother said, "Let's keep it that way," because she was smart. My mother was brilliant. She knew. I'm 46 years old, so I'm clocking in on 50 here. My mother knew that the white schools were going to have better books, better educational programs, smaller classroom sizes, better teachers. So she said, "Yeah, let my kid be the token. She'll be fine. She'll be fine." So I grew up primarily around other kids who were, I had like two maybe three Black friends my whole life growing up. I didn't really see other Black people until I went to college. It was a surprise. So I am not really qualified to speak on diversity issues in these white witchy spaces, even now, because I'm honestly just learning myself about these issues. I know about my family, I know what I've read, I know what I've experienced. But, I cannot be your diversity expert. I learned how to take care of my own hair from YouTube. Okay? I cannot be your diversity expert. It's
What
it's
a
just
weird
not.
thing to put on somebody.
Yeah, I mean, my mother didn't even teach me. She was not even interested herself. Plus, my mother was mostly white, so it's just, it just wasn't, it wasn't part of my life, and I don't know, I just can't do that. But um, working with other witches, the other thing was I was in a coven one time. This was funny for me. I was in a coven one time. I joined the coven. And it was a sweet little local coven. There were like 14 or 15 of us. And we were run by this one woman. And I will never not believe that she didn't like create this coven because she needed people to help her move her house. Um,
Wow.
Listen, okay.
I'm
We
listening.
got to we got together like 3 times. She introduced us all together like 3 times. And then on like the fourth meeting, she was like, "Hey guys, it's been really great. I'm glad we got to know each other. We got little special rings and everything. It was great." She's like, "It's been really great getting to know you guys, but unfortunately, I'm going to be moving across town to the other side of town. And, this location isn't going to be convenient for me. But if you guys want to keep meeting, I'm going to be meeting across town. By the way, does anybody want to help me move?" So a bunch of us helped her move. And then we never heard from her again.
That's kind of impressive. That kind of
She's
planning. I don't have that kind of planning in me.
I mean, it the timing is suspicious, isn't it? That she she started a coven on Craigslist.
No,
We met 3 times.
man,
We helped her
look.
move. There were no more meetings.
All right then.
Don't you think maybe she gave us a bunch of stuff. She was like, "Hey, do you like that? You can have it." And then she gave somebody a cat.
Uh,
She gave somebody else a snake.
Stop it.
She gave me a giant knife. I still have it. It's a beautiful knife. Um, her boyfriend gave my husband a leather coat. She gave us parting gifts.
Great.
And then she was
Right then, peace.
and then she was like, "Well,"
The
she was like
end.
"Well, so mote it be. I'm out." And I mean, she was she was and then we called her. And she was like, "No, I don't think I can get together this week. Moving has been so hard." And then
She
all
changed
of
her
a
number.
sudden, she did. She changed her
What?
number. She did. And like, what was funny was like we met her at like we got to the top of the place, like the subdivision. She was like, "Oh, well, just drop everything at the top of the subdivision." So we didn't actually know which of the houses in the subdivision she moved into. So we would just been walking around knocking on doors. Did she live here? Did she
Your
live here?
stuff's here. That's
Does
too
she does
much.
she live here? Does she live here? So we don't know which of the houses she moved to. So we couldn't like exactly track her down without being total stalkers. So yeah, I think that she like basically formed a coven so that she could she might so that she could get people to help her move.
I just don't have the
And
energy for that.
I don't know, but we had to buy our own rings. I mean, they weren't. We bought our own
Of
little
course.
rings
Of course.
and everything. So, I mean, she was smart. we did help her move. Somebody got stuck with a snake. Somebody else got stuck with a cat. I got a knife. My husband got a coat.
Good for y'all. I mean, out of those things, I think that's what I would have rather had.
I mean, the person who got the snake, I mean, they
That
ended
would have
up
been
with a
second,
pet.
but I'd rather have the knife first.
Well, I mean, it's not, it was a snake that's not even legal in this state. I mean,
Oh,
it's
great.
like,
Even better.
yeah, it's like a hawk nose thing, and she can't even have hawk noses in this state. It's like, well, what? You can never take it to the vet. It's just, oh great.
Wow.
so, so that was awesome. And, yeah, but yeah, I'll never not believe it wasn't like just like this plot. I mean, maybe she did get busy. I can't say she didn't get busy, but the timing is suspicious. The timing is suspicious.
I'm saying.
Time is suspicious. And if you, I don't know, we hoped, I often think about that. And when we, we were getting ready to move, I told my husband, I was like, well, I better get online and see if I can form a coven real quick, see if we
Yeah.
can get some help. Because the timing was suspicious. That's all I can say. Timing was suspicious. You know it was suspicious. If you're listening, you know it was suspicious. Anyway, she's not listening. She's not listening.
Who or what would you say are the 3 biggest influences on your practice?
My grandmama, um, let's see. My grandma for one, definitely what I feel is what I'm the mission that I am called here to do, which is to give as much love to the world as I possibly can. And the length of time I have to do it, which is why I feel so under pressure. So those 3 things.
What would you tell a new person just starting out trying to decide if they want to even call themselves a witch or not?
It's not important. What you call yourself is not important. What you do is important. How you feel is important. But what you call yourself is not important. Until you decide it is, it's not important. If you want to call yourself a witch on day one if you want to. If you don't want to call yourself a witch until 10 minutes before you die, that's fine too. What you do in the world is more important than what you call yourself in this world. Who you are to yourself is the most important thing. Who you are to other people, what they call you, is not important. Titles that you hold are not important. Who you are to yourself is the most important thing. And if what you are to yourself is a witch, then call yourself that. If what you are to yourself is a root worker, call yourself that. If what you are to yourself is a woman who wakes up or a man who wakes up and sometimes does what they consider to be magical things in this world, then call yourself that. It doesn't matter. All these little things that we are doing, all these little titles that we are holding for ourselves, they don't matter. What matters is what we do, how we affect people, the things that we change, the people that we love, how we love ourselves. That's what matters. That's it. That's it. Because we're not going to have any of these little titles, even any of these little things. None of that. We're not going to have any. It doesn't matter. It's not important.
Who should I have on the show?
Whoever you want to, but I think you should probably have some more, diversify a little bit.
I'm trying,
Okay. Well,
but I don't know who they are. I mean, I do try.
well, they
I'm
have
doing
this
my
amazing thing
best.
called the internet. They have this
I
amazing
try.
thing called the
That's where I
internet.
live. Yeah, but I don't want to approach somebody and say, "Hey, come be my token diverse person."
Well, you don't do it like that,
Yeah, but I'm an idiot.
You Well, no, you're not. You're a brilliant person, and I love you very much. I've always loved you, and I've always admired you. I love the way you move in the world, and I love how you look at adversity in your own life, and you just never let it stop you. I've never seen you let anything stop you, and that is something I've always admired about you. You keep going even when you're scared, and I love that about you. I love it so much.
I
So,
really feel like
I have
you're confusing me with someone else.
I am not. I am absolutely not. It may take you a little bit, but you're still going to do stuff even when you're scared. Look at where you are. Look at where you are. Look at where you are. This is somebody that I never thought I would see. I mean, I had no doubts, but at the same time, look at where you are. Look at where your jewelry is. I see your jewelry hanging on the necks of people on television. Honey, you're fearless. You are fearless. And I just love you. I just love you. You're one of the best people I know. I tell people all the time, you're one of the best people I know. So I have no doubt that if there are people that you want on this show, you can get them. All you have to do is just think toward the purposes that you want them on the show for. You don't want anybody on this show to tokenize them. You want them on the show so that you can spread whatever it is that they need to say. You want to open your audience to new and diverse things, to people that they need to know about. So, no, nobody's going to feel tokenized on your show because that's not what's in your heart. So, you don't have to worry
This whole
about that.
episode is hurting my feelings.
What? I just love you. I just love you so much. Gosh, I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah, I know you do.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Hmm. See, you just didn't know I was like this. This part of my life has been a secret to you for some
I
reason.
know it has.
You don't know this part of me.
Uh-uh.
You didn't know this part of me. Yeah, see, other people know that I am love and I am made of love. So that's just who I am. My husband is used to it now, but I've been this way for a long time. I am love and I'm made of love. So
Well, is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
well, you skipped my book recommendation.
Hit me
Is that
with
for
it.
later?
Well, no, because you didn't really. Okay. Here's what I heard. This may not be what you said, but this is what I heard, that you didn't really get much out of books. You couldn't find yourself in books.
Right, but I
So
do
I didn't
have a
know if
book
you would have
recommendation.
recommendation. Well, hit me with a book recommendation.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing that was a problem for me is that I didn't see myself in books. But then when I started looking, I found a couple of books that I would recommend to new witches, especially witches who are, well, one book for in particular, um, is Jambalaya by Louisa Tish. And it is a book primarily from, I would say it is from the Black perspective. It's definitely more for Black witches, I would think, for African American witches, I would think, but I mean, it's for anybody. But it is a celebration of African Black traditions, and it's for women who are working um, protections and charms for themselves, just for walking in the world. And it's a wonderful book, especially since there's not or weren't so many books out there from the Black perspective or for Black witches, for Black women to look at. And it's a great stepping stone because when you buy that book, obviously, if you buy it online, you're going to get so many recommendations for books from other African American witches, root workers, spiritualists. And it's a great place to start. It's a book that I believe is like 20 or 30 years old and it's been recently reworked. So I would say if you want some diversity on your bookshelf, that's a great place to start. And she might come on your show.
That would be
She's seven.
exciting.
Yeah, she's 74 years old. I think she's still kicking around. She's wonderful.
Now, the last two things are not on the list of questions.
Oh boy.
The first thing is, would you please recommend something else to the listeners?
um. Okay. Well, if I could recommend anything to your listeners, does it have to be like does it have to be like a
It
physical
can be
product?
absolutely anything at all. It doesn't have to be witchcraft related. It can be a smell.
Smell. All right. Well, I'm going to actually um, recommend an activity to your listeners. Something that I get a lot out of is, uh, and I know it may be difficult for some people, but definitely if you don't already do it, pick up a meditative practice. Um, I know it's difficult for some people. Meditation seems boring. It is boring. But there are a lot of different types of meditation. There's active meditation, there's silent meditation, there's sitting meditation, there's walking meditation, there's painting meditation, there's like music meditation. There's so many different types. But pick up a meditation practice, give yourself a break from yourself, and see if it changes how you view your witchcraft, how you view your practice. Because for me, it has just changed how I move in the world, how I see myself, how I deal with my husband, how I deal with frustration. Um, it's changed a lot. I feel much better on the days when I meditate versus when the days when I don't. Even my pain levels are different. The way I look at, um, the way that I look at just like how things are changing for me on a physical level are different. Yeah, it's just meditation. I would say if you don't have a meditation practice, pick up one. And if you do have a meditation practice, you know, maybe deepen it. See if you're ready to deepen it.
How do you deepen it?
Well, for me at least, um, I changed the number of minutes I was trying to go for me. Um, I I started off with 5 minutes. I started going for 10, sometimes 20. I switched to a walking meditation for a while um, to sort of add different breathing patterns and to strengthen my body,
Hmm.
and to add a different level of difficulty, because walking meditation, you have a lot more distractions. Usually you're outside. There's a lot of distractions outside. It's harder to keep your focus. Um, so I did that for a while. Um, I have deepened my meditation practice by including it with um, chanting. I've started chanting a little bit more, chanting names and just sort of using it as a way to add depth to the practice. And also, I've started using some intention, meditating on certain intentions to see if I can bring them more into fruition, like having an intention and sort of meditating on that intention and sort of trying to remove obstacles. Like if I'm having pain in my body, then meditating on moving that pain, or trying to reduce it, or meditating on certain things I want to change. Like if um if I'm having a problem with a person, then maybe meditating on solution, being, trying to meditate toward solution more than conflict, dwelling on the solution instead of the conflict, just deepening my practice in those ways. So just changing the way I meditate, giving myself little obstacles to overcome.
Hmm. I'm super not there yet.
Yeah, I wasn't there
That's
either.
okay.
You don't have to be where I am. You just have to stay where you are and be with you.
So the last thing is, please tell me a story.
Didn't already tell you enough stories. All right, let's
There's
see.
never enough stories.
Oh gosh, let me think if I can think of a story. Oh gosh, let me think. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I have a story. Let me think. Hmm. It's impossible to think of a story when you put me on the
I
spot,
know.
Kim. God, what are you doing to me? Now I can't think of a story.
Ow.
What do you want to know a story about?
Something that you would
Oh,
tell at a picnic with like a family get together where everybody's like, "Remember that time?" and then some insane shit
oh
comes
my God.
out. It's a "Remember that
Oh my
time"
God.
story.
I remember that time story. Let me try and think of one. Oh God. I'm trying to think of one I would tell my husband, or my
Yeah.
husband and I would know, and that would be a good one. Oh gosh. Oh, I can't tell you that one. Might go to jail. That's probably a good one. Um, Gosh, I can't think of one now. I shouldn't have told you about getting kidnapped in the store so early. Um, oh my gosh, should have told you about getting kidnapped in the store so early. Because all my stories are tragic. That's the sad part. All my stories are so tragic. We'll be like, well, let's see. Well, not tragic, y'all. They're not good. They're pretty bad. Some of them are bad. Um, hmm, I can't think of a story, Kim. Good Lord. Hold on, let me think one more. Well, no, I can't think of. I don't have one. I can't think of a thing.
How
My
can this
brain is dead.
be?
My brain is gone. I can't think of nothing. I can't think of not a thing. That's so funny. I can't think of not a thing. Gosh, I cannot think of a thing. How can
Tell a
this
story
be?
about Butters
Oh God, there are so many. Probably be better off to
or
think
Rachel.
or Rachel.
You've told me stories about her.
I know, like when we thought she was deaf and all kinds of things. God, she's the worst dog ever. Oh my God, she was the worst. She was so horrible. She was so horrible. We spent so much money. Um, we spent so much money. We spent so much money. Oh, finding out she was ignoring us. Um, hmm.
Didn't you take her to a dog park or something?
Yeah, we took her to a dog, but we took her to, let's see, when we took her to the dog park, paid all that money for those lessons. Um, I think, gosh, that's been like 10 years, 15 years ago, almost. I think, can't think of that. I can't think of any stories. That
How'd
is
you get
so
Molly?
crazy. Oh, we stole her.
Well,
We
that's
stole,
a story.
we stole
Oh,
Molly.
Jesus.
We, we stole her. We stole her. We stole her. I mean, okay. We stole her a little bit. We didn't steal.
Just a touch.
We stole her a little bit. We stole her a little bit. I stole Butter too. I mean, I think your dog is the only one I ever got legitimately. Oh God. Okay. Well, listen. Anybody would have stole Molly. In my defense, anybody would have stole Molly. She was a beautiful dog, and I feel justified in stealing her. So, so Anyway, statute of limitations is up. Nobody can touch us. Um, we My mama was really good friends with Molly's owner. His name was Brad. Brad was sweet. He was very funny. He was a very lovely man. Three dogs. Brad had 3 dogs. Molly was one of them. At the time, I didn't know Molly's name, but Brad and my mama, they were just buddies, and they would get together. They would go to eat. Brad's family didn't understand him. They didn't understand him at all. They didn't love him, really. They couldn't love him. They were they were just too set in their ways to love him. Brad smoked Virginia Slims, and he watched Young and the Restless, and his house smelled like lemon pledge. And uh, Brand wore women's Jordache jeans and women's shoes, and he did not meet a blouse he didn't love. And my mother loved Brad. She took up for him, and they went to the same beauty parlor. He got his hair done with wings on the side, and it was long, and they had the same haircut almost, and they just were best friends. They just were best friends. So when Brad was in the hospital for so long and lost a lot of weight and everything, my mother had passed, and Brad was the sweetest thing to me. He took care of me. When my mother died, he brought a casserole, and he was kind. He was very good. And when my mother died, Brad sat with the family. He sat up front with the family. And he rode in the limousine. So that tells you how I felt about Brad. So when Brad died, his family was not kind about it. I took his family, the 24-piece bucket of chicken, and all the trimmings that go with it, and I brought them a homemade casserole. They didn't care. They wouldn't do anything good about Brad's death. I don't even know if they put it in the paper. I think the funeral home did, from the way that the obituary read. It was not nice. Brad died of a flu, they said, and they was not kind. Brad's longtime friend was not allowed at the funeral. Everything was very sad. So, when I had stayed friends with Brad the whole time right after my mother had died, and we was good friends. I still took him the flowers out of my mother's yard that she would want him to have. I dug up the bulbs. I helped him tend his garden. I was kind to him, everything, just like my mother was. And then Brad and I became friends. Me and my husband would take me to go eat, and we just did everything. And when Brad died, his family was not good. His family was not kind about it. I don't know what the problem was. I have a feeling I know what the problem was. I think y'all can infer what the problem was. And when I went back to get my casserole dish, it was gone. Everything in the house was gone, except 3 dogs. Brad's dogs was left behind by his family after they cleaned everything out. There was a bag of dog food. There was a bowl of water. Everything else was gone, down to the rugs on the floor, dish towels, everything. 2 of the dogs were just yapping and biting and everything. And then there sat this sweet little corgi border collie mix, big brown eyes, not making a sound, cowering a little bit. And I looked at her and I said, "You want to go home with me? Come here, you want to go home with me?" And she came right to me. I picked her up. I ran her to the car. I said, "We got a dog, let's go." My husband took off. That's how we got Molly. We stole her.
Good.
We stole her from Brad's house. The other 2 dogs were not approachable. They were biters, and we couldn't take them. So I had to call animal control for those 2. And I know they got taken, and I kept up with them. They got taken to a no-kill shelter, and they got adopted out to homes. And I made sure they got adopted out to homes because I kept calling. And that's the last good thing I could do for Brad, to love him. And I kept his dog. And we loved her. We did not know her name was Molly. Um, I did not know Brad's dogs' names because he never really talked about them except for to just say dogs. My dogs. They were just one unit. My dogs. But I did know that one of his dogs' name was Ollie. And so I started calling her Molly because she would come to it. And that's how she got her name. And we had Molly for, she was a puppy then, and we had her for another 10 years. And we just recently lost her in 2022 to congestive heart. Well, we lost her actually beginning of this year, 2023 to congestive heart failure.
I
So
didn't
she stayed
realize
with
it was
us.
so recent.
Yeah, she stayed with us quite a long time.
I know she kept fooling you.
She kept calling. She just stayed with us and stayed with us and stayed with us. And we just kept taking her to the vet and kept keeping her going. And this year she said she was done. But she was here with Rachel. We had her with Rachel. We sure did. So, but that was our girl Molly, and that's how we got her. We stole her. I stole her for Brad. I took care of his girl. And that's my story, Your Honor. Convict me if you want to.
Well, thanks for the stories.
You're
And for
welcome.
being on the show. And
I
for
love
being
you.
my friend.
Oh, I will always be your friend. You never have to worry about that. There's nothing in the world you could do.
I love you too. I know, because when I was a bad friend for a while, I told you I was. And you were like, well, we're still my friend.
You've never been a bad friend. You just went through a bad time.
All right. That's nice of you to put it that way, but...
That's the absolute truth to me. That's the absolute
Okay.
truth to me. You were never a bad friend. You just went through a bad time. Your heart still loved me. You were just having a hard time doing it.
Well, I will see you on Instagram. Since LiveJournal's gone, I will see you on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know it's a hard. This has been a weird road for you getting to know what's really going on inside me. You're gonna listen to this and be like, "Holy crap, who is she? I didn't even know." It's okay. But yeah, I love you, and I'll see you on Instagram.
Okay.
And you're one of the most wonderful human beings I've ever known. And I'm so happy I get to know you and love you. I'm so happy I get to know you and love you. And I'm so glad you met your wonderful husband. I'm so glad you have the life that you have.
Well, me too. Okay, then I'll see you around. Bye.
Bye. Don't take any wooden nickels.
So, Mimi.
Yeah.
Welcome to Patreon.
This is the weird question part. And episodes of 90 Day Fiancé or any 90 Day Fiancé spinoff.
Oh no. Hush.
I need it for my life. It's good.
To hear more of the Patreon episode, head over to patreon.com/cleverkimscurios for a free 7-day trial. The monthly magic tier will give you access to the monthly magic Marco Polo group, the private Patreon Facebook group, access to the written monthly spells, and more. There are also tiers with just digital content, or you can get spell boxes, intentional handcrafted jewelry that I make especially for witches, and there's even a crystal tier. Check it out at patreon.com/cleverkimscurios. Thanks for listening to this episode of Your Average Witch. You can find us all around the internet, on Instagram at Your Average Witch Podcast, Facebook at facebook.com/groups/hivehouse, at youraveragewitch.com, and at your favorite podcast service. Want to help the podcast grow? Leave a review. You can review us on Amazon and Apple Podcasts, and now you can rate us on Spotify. If you'd like to recommend someone for the podcast, like to be on it yourself, or if you'd like to advertise on the podcast, send an email to youraveragewitchpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next Tuesday.